want to be under the bright lights. I want to be on the Broadway stage.
Tiger Rag Radio is on now.
All right, back here on Tiger Rag Radio. Jeff Palermo along with Glenn Gilbo and Todd Horn. We'll talk some women's basketball. Reed Darcy, who covers the Lady Tigers for The Advocate, will join us in the next segment. LSU's got a big test coming up on Thursday. The Lady Tigers so far have blown out their first two opponents in conference play. Really hasn't been. Now, Arkansas is bad, and LSU made them look even worse in the SEC opener, beating the Razorbacks 98-64 last Thursday. And then they took care of Auburn. Auburn's actually a team that they've, for whatever reason, last year I believe they lost at Auburn.
They did.
I recall correctly. So Auburn's been a team that's kind of given them trouble for whatever reason. And they got up big in the second quarter, and Auburn made a little bit of a run in the fourth quarter, but it was never like LSU was in jeopardy of losing that game. Ended up winning that game by 10 after outscoring Auburn 27-8 in the second quarter. But LSU gets a test here this Thursday against Tennessee, a Tennessee team that's much different than what we've seen from previous Tennessee teams. Jackson, let's go ahead and play this first cut here. This would be the one that's kind of labeled 17 from Kim Mulkey talking about the Tennessee Volunteers.
They have a ton of new players, like about 10 transfers, and the style of play is like nothing I've ever seen. They score a lot of points, and they make you play fast with their press. It's going to be quite a challenge to keep them from scoring in the 90s. That seems to be their magic number.
They ended up scoring close to 80 against Oklahoma and ended up losing a tight one in their last Sunday. So they're coming off a loss. Charlie Creme, who does the bracketology for ESPN.com, labeled LSU an enigma because you just don't know. LSU's only played one ranked team this year, and their first two conference games were not against great opponents. So we really don't know much about this team. Kim Mulkey was asked about that today. This would be the Cut 19 one, Jackson.
I'd like to also say that I think we're a program that's built a solid foundation in a short period of time. And you can still be an enigma and be coaching for many years. So it's fair. We've been called worse, right? I don't look at that as a bad thing. I look at that as we puzzle people. We were an enigma when we won the championship.
And once again for LSU, finding that point guard is the one thing that Kim Mulkey's searching for. But this year she's got options, unlike last year. She really didn't have options a season ago. And then Kim Mulkey talked about that, trying to figure out which is the right person to put on the floor at the right time.
It makes me work harder because we have to know who to put in the game, when they need to be in the game for defensive purposes, what I need to run for a quick hitter, who needs to be in the game with that point guard. So it's a lot more headaches for me because no one has just separated.
So there's a little bit of what Coach Kim Mulkey had to say heading into this big game on Thursday against Tennessee. The Volunteers are ranked 16th in the country, and they are 13-1 on the year.
It's going to be an interesting game because, like she said, it's going to be a contrasting style for LSU. LSU likes to run. LSU does best when they're playing strong defense, and their defense is starting their offense, and they want to be in transition, and they like to press full court at times. Well, they're going to get a little bit of their own medicine. The difference is that Tennessee literally has, they full platoon substitute for basically every 2 minutes until they get into the fourth quarter. So they're fresh. They have fresh people running up and down the court. And they do. They shoot the three like it's, the only shot in town. And so it's going to be a challenge for LSU. I think, that Tennessee is a good team, but I think LSU's a little better and a little more experienced. And I think that the way Kim Mulkey is building this team, it's going to be less of an enigma for Charlie Creme when he watches this game.
LSU's big three is very impressive. I mean, Michaela Williams, Anisha Morrow, Flau'jae Johnson. I don't know if there's really a program that can match that. And again, it's going to come down to, Samaya Smith, some of the role players and what they're able to do.
Well, and I think Kaylin Gilbert and, gosh, I can't think.
Samaya Smith. Well, we got to take a break. We'll be back after this.
Hi, I'm Mike Munderland, and we're here to smash the capital city's trash.
Smash My Trash is a revolutionary compactor for large dumpsters, sometimes reducing the volume of waste by up to 70%. This means fewer hauls per month and big savings for your business. Fewer hauls and compacted waste will also result in a positive impact on our community and our environment by taking up less space in our local landfill sites. Schedule your company's free demo today. Call 225-497-0101.
Back here on Tiger Rag Radio, Jeff Palermo along with Glenn Gilbo and Todd Horn as we continue to go to the Max Home Hotline. And our next guest covers the LSU women's basketball team for the Advocate. Reed Darcy joins us now here on Tiger Rag Radio. Reed, thanks a lot for spending some time with us tonight. How you doing?
Hey, guys. Doing great. Just enjoying the cold weather. How are y'all?
All right. Are you an enigma too, Reed?
I knew that was coming.
I don't know. Y'all tell me. Y'all tell me. I'm not so sure exactly if I have a good feel for that. But, y'all might have to tell me.
Well, how good do you think this team is? Since Charlie Creme doesn't know how good it is.
Well, first of all, an enigma is a good thing. Right, Reed? So go ahead about Charlie.
Yeah. It certainly can be. I think this team is good. I think they're one of the few teams in the country that has a chance at winning the national title.
Yeah.
I felt that way before the season, and I still feel that way. But I'm not fully sure yet exactly how good they are right now, if that makes sense, and how much further they have to go until they really reach their ceiling and hit their potential. I think we could find out a lot about them tomorrow, or not tomorrow night, or Thursday night when they go up to Knoxville to play Tennessee, guys, because it's a really good Tennessee game, and they're really going to test LSU.
Well, one way to solve an enigma as a coach is to play a tougher non-conference schedule. Because then you, like you just said, you find out about yourself tomorrow. You can find out a little about yourself early.
Reed, do me a favor and explain to Glenn Kim's formula, which he repeated today, for a successful basketball season.
Well, Glenn, the formula is to win all the games you're supposed to win, and maybe steal one or two games you're not supposed to win, and then win all your home games. But then you'll be hosting tournament games, and all that matters is you're playing your best basketball in March. I think that's
true. That's what Alabama football did not do this year.
Right,
win the games you're supposed to.
Yeah, I think that's her scheduling philosophy. That's what she always operates with. That difference from some of their peers in the SEC, like South Carolina had a really tough schedule. Texas had a really tough schedule in the non-conference.
It does make sense. You can do it both ways. I think she ought to mix one really good non-conference team.
Well, I got another one for you. And Reed can back me up on this too. It's not going to be the end of the world if they don't play well against Tennessee and they lose to Tennessee on Thursday.
Yeah, they got plenty of time to fix it up. You're right.
Well, it's not me.
Yeah, I think they do, and I think they also have room for maybe 4 or 5 losses, in the SEC, just because the SEC is so good this year. Every game you play is going to be either a quad 1 game or a quad 2 game, especially the ones against the teams that are going to finish in the top half of the conference.
So the SEC is not an enigma.
No, it's not. It's really good. It's really easy to figure out. It's really there's 7 or 8 teams that are really good, and then there's a little drop off. But all 7 or 8 of those teams can push LSU. I think going all the way down from South Carolina to Vanderbilt and Mississippi State, there are teams in the conference that can push LSU. So I wouldn't be surprised if they pick up a handful of losses here in the next couple of months.
Hey, Reed, one of the things that's really, I think, becoming apparent, even though they are an enigma, is that
I don't think we've said enigma this much in the history of Tiger Rag Radio in the last 10 minutes.
But Kim purposely built this team with these super fast, dynamic guards like Kaylin Gilbert. Now we're seeing Miracle Shepherd come in. How different does that make this team?
Well, I think they played fast last year. I mean, I think what separates this team is, like you mentioned, it's Kaylin Gilbert. It's having that extra scorer off the bench.
Yeah.
Last year they didn't have that, right? I think I looked I looked back at it the other day, and I didn't realize this while I was watching it last year, but starting January 1st last year all the way through the rest of the season, their bench gave them 7.4 points per game. That's nothing. And so right now, I mean, Kaylin Gilbert, it's only been 2 games, but she's more than doubling that all by herself. She's averaging, I think, over 16 points a game just through the first 2 games of SEC play. So she's playing well. She's helped LSU win a couple games already. If you think back to Washington and Stanford, and I think having her as that extra scorer is really going to set this team up for success, even on the nights when their stars might not be shooting it very well from the field, like you saw against Auburn the other day.
Talking with Reed Darcy, who covers the LSU women's basketball team for The Advocate. Reed, what do you think is right now the part of their game that needs to be figured out the most here over the next as the schedule is about ready to pick up for them?
I think it's probably the defense. If you ask Kim Mulkey, I think she'd say the same thing. Kim Mulkey's the type of coach, she's probably never going to be satisfied with how they're playing defensively, but I think there's particularly some room to improve here, especially in the first few games of the SEC slate. I think if you look at the numbers on a per-possession basis, they're a little bit behind where they have been in previous years under Kim Mulkey. I think they're still they have room to improve in terms of forcing turnovers, getting stops. They are leading the SEC in opposing field goal percentage, like Mulkey mentioned today. But like Glenn mentioned earlier, that's against not one of the tougher strength of schedules in the conference. So I'm looking to see how they can force turnovers and really get out in transition, because that's when they're at their best offensively. So I think it all starts on defense. They've got some room to improve there, and that will set them up for success at the offensive end.
Yeah, the dribble drive continues to give them problems. I mean, that was an issue a year ago as well.
Yeah, I think so. And if you look at Tennessee, they're a really dribble drive team. I mean, they space you out. They go 4 or 5 out, and they do a lot of drive and kick. They take a lot of threes, and that's typically the type of team that LSU struggles to defend. If you look at the Stanford game, Stanford played that way. They played with 4, maybe 5 shooters on the court at the same time, and they stretched LSU out. Those kinds of teams usually give LSU problems just because they like to play 2 traditional post players on the court at the same time. So I think what's going to be challenging about going to Tennessee for LSU, not only will it be tough to play on the road, it'll also be tough to really get stretched out. LSU might have to go small, which they're not fully comfortable doing. They'd rather have, 2 of Vanessa Mora, Samaya Smith, Jersey Wolfenbarger on the court at the same time. But the way Tennessee plays, with all the space they have and all the shooting they have, they could really stretch them out and force them outside their comfort zone.
Reed, do you speaking of Wolfenbarger and Samaya Smith, Mulkey addressed them today, but are you seeing them make any progress this year?
Those 2, I think she mentioned today how they both pretty much sat all of last season. Samaya Smith had the knee injury, and you can tell, I think, early on that her foot speed quite wasn't really what it was before she got hurt, which is to be expected because she had a major knee injury, and she recovered pretty quickly from it. So I think she's still trying to get her mobility back. I think she's still trying to get her athleticism back and her foot speed. And so in the meantime, until she gets back to 100% of what she was before, Jersey can step in, and then she can be that tall, long inside presence that you need. And she can switch out onto the perimeter sometimes if you ask her to. I think she's got enough athleticism and foot speed to do that in a pinch. But obviously you don't want to be relying on her to do that full time because she's so tall and long, and she's best when she's underneath the rim, defending the rim.
Reed, thanks a lot for your time tonight, man. We appreciate it. Should be a fun game Thursday on Rocky Top, LSU and Tennessee.
All right, guys. Y'all be good. Appreciate it.
Reed Darcy from The Advocate joining us on the Max Home Hotline. We'll take another break. When we come back, we'll talk about the Washington Commanders and Jayden Daniels. So stay tuned for that when we come back here on Tiger Rag Radio.
It's time to start betting on yourself. Louisiana 988 can help if you're dealing with tough emotions caused by gambling habits. You can share as much or as little as you want, and it's completely confidential. It's free, available 24/7, and most people who reach out report feeling better right in the moment. Call or text 988 anytime.
Back here on Tiger Rag Radio, the NFL playoffs are this weekend, and the Washington Commanders are in it for the first time since 2020, if I recall correctly, as they'll be taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Jayden Daniels has been one of the big sensations in the NFL this year. We had him on, I think we've had him on a couple times, David Harrison, who is the host of the Locked On Commanders podcast. He is back with us here on Tiger Rag Radio to preview the NFL playoff matchup Sunday night in Tampa between the Commanders and the Buccaneers. David, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Oh, we're doing well. What is it about Jayden Daniels in these games, especially the crazy endings? And if I recall the stat, he's thrown he's something like 5 touchdown passes in the final 30 seconds of games, or something crazy like that. I mean, we know that he's a smooth operator. We saw that at LSU. We saw that really. It never seemed like anything ever got to him, even if when LSU would have a tough loss, even when he suffered a concussion in the Alabama game, and never just blew it off, and then he had a historic game the next game against Florida. What have you seen from him being able to cover him over the course of the 17-game regular season?
Exactly that. You know what I mean? Going all the way back to, our introductory press conference with him after the NFL draft, that guy that we met that day is the same guy that, I last saw Sunday night after the Commanders beat the Dallas Cowboys, you know what I mean? And that, I think, is Dan Quinn, the head coach of the Commanders, likes to talk a lot about superpowers, and I think that is certainly one of Jayden's superpowers, is his ability to kind of withstand any storm and not shrink under any light and all that stuff. And obviously, the lights only get brighter, as you go. You have an opportunity to clinch a playoff spot. The lights get a little bit brighter. You make the playoffs. Now you're playing for seeding. Now you're in the wild card round. And so the lights continue to get brighter, and we'll see if there is a spotlight bright enough to make Jayden flinch. But so far, I mean, it hasn't happened. So until it happens, you just kind of continue to be amazed by his poise. And I think really then you watch him develop as a leader in the locker room here in Washington, and that poise that he brings trickles down to everybody else, even on the defense, even on the special teams. Guys talk about, when the defense gives up a scoring drive and it puts the team down late, you just kind of referenced it, the late scoring ability that he has and the ability to put this team on his shoulders. Like, these guys have confidence. Like, yeah, we messed up. Yeah, we gave up a score. We gave up the lead. But you know what? We've got 5 over there, and as long as we've got 5 over there, we've got a chance to win this thing. And I think it even goes to veteran quarterback Marcus Mariota. Marcus has been big bro. He's a mentor. He's been absolutely instrumental in Jayden's success this year, and Jayden gives him a lot of credit for anything that he's been able to do. But I think also, look, I started really covering the National Football League Marcus Mariota's rookie year, so I've seen some Marcus Mariota football. And I'll tell you, the Marcus Mariota of, at least a few years ago that I knew, that last drive against the Dallas Cowboys, he probably doesn't make that 33-yard scramble. He doesn't make that key throw. That's a throw that he made in the end zone to Terry McLaurin that he actually missed earlier in the game. So he's able to correct that on the spot. And I think that some of that poise, some of that confidence comes from a guy like Jayden Daniels leading this team. So even on a play where he's not on the field, you saw the support. If you watch the clips and the highlights of Jayden just going nuts for his teammate Marcus Mariota winning that game. And that's, it's another touchdown pass in the last 30 seconds of the game. So it all just kind of interconnects, and I think that, it doesn't necessarily start with Jayden. I think it all starts with, General Manager Adam Peters, head coach Dan Quinn, but Jayden has certainly been an amplifier for that message that those two brought into this organization.
David, was that a premeditated decision before the game that Jayden was only going to play the first half?
It was not. No, it was not. As long as that game was competitive, I feel like most likely if the game got out of hand, honestly, one way or the other, that they probably would have pulled Jayden and the other starters. But, Dan Quinn and the team made it clear from jump that they weren't going into Dallas looking to rest their players. They're going into Dallas looking to win a game. Now, if you can win and rest, obviously that's the best of both worlds. But, Dan Quinn said after the game that Jayden had some soreness in one of his legs. I'm not sure which leg, but one of his legs. And basically Dan said, okay, we're not going to run a risk with this. You know, we do need to want to win this game, which is why the other starters stayed in, Terry McLaurin, all those guys. But we also understand that there's a wild card game coming, and we need to make sure that Jayden is ready for that and healthy enough to play for that. And good news is DQ told us that the reason they pulled him off the field against Dallas is not going to hinder him in the wild card game. I think essentially what probably happened is he ran his butt off against the Atlanta Falcons in an overtime game the week before. And just like any other human body, even one who's, accomplished everything that Jayden has, we get sore and we get tired, and it's been a long season. So I think that's probably just catching up with him a little bit. So err on the side of caution and make sure that he's available against the Buccaneers because, look, this Commanders this Commanders running game has not been great this is the last half of the season. So they're probably going to need Jayden to use those legs against the Buccaneers as well.
Jayden got off to such a fast start this season. Yeah. I was just wondering, like after the draft and during training camp and preseason, was there any part of the fan base or media like not sold on Jayden Daniels?
I think by the time we left Indianapolis, everybody, at least here in like the local beat reporters, I can tell you by the time we left Washington, everybody was on the Jayden Daniels train. Even if some of them came into Indianapolis a little bit on the fence or a little bit, maybe it's Drake May or what have you. I think everybody left Indianapolis just with a full understanding that it was Jayden Daniels. And it's actually kind of funny, you guys know how it is. Like, they're all season content and everything else. Like, you want to keep things interesting. You want to keep things intriguing. And I kept apologizing to my Locked On Commanders listeners. I said, listen, guys, I apologize to you. I just cannot sit here with integrity and tell you that I think the Commanders are going to go anywhere other than Jayden Daniels. So I didn't do a single episode on why Drake May is the answer, J.J. McCarthy is the answer, why Caleb Williams might not go number one. Every quarterback projection episode I did leading up to the draft was all about Jayden because it just made too much sense. You know what I mean? And like I said, I think everybody that was on the fence coming into Indy, we all left Indy agreeing with that. There were some fans, and I'm honestly, I'm going to tell you, there's still some fans that, when Jayden leads the game with a 50% completion rate, less than 100 yards passing, and the offense only has 3 points against the Dallas Cowboys, they come out and there's, this is why Jayden's not a good quarterback. But, human beings all want to be correct. We all want to be right. I had this saying where I agree with me, so by all means tell me why you agree with me. But, at the same time, like, no matter where you are on the spectrum of how good you thought Jayden was going to be, I mean, if you've really watched this kid, you can't deny that he's doing something special here in Washington this year.
Well, Scott, David, it should be a fun game Sunday night. What do you think are some of the keys here for the Commanders to get the win against the Bucs?
Yeah, I think, honestly, the biggest key right now is they've got to try to get Tyler Biadasz, their starting center, healthy. He's got his hand on the ball every single snap, just like Jayden Daniels does, but he also sets protections for Jayden. And they've been in lockstep so much this season that it's absolutely crucial to try to get him back on the field. Marshawn Lattimore on the other side of the ball is going to be critical to the Commanders' defense. That defense has not been great this season. So if they can put Marshawn Lattimore out there on Mike Evans and kind of say, all right, we feel confident in that matchup. Look, Mike's going to get his catches, but Marshawn's going to make his plays as well. It allows them to free up some resources and stop guys like Bucky Irving, the outstanding rookie running back there in Tampa. And that gives them a fighting chance of keeping the Buccaneers score low. And then, just go out there and let Jayden be Jayden. There's some games here this year where you kind of see him maybe holding back a little bit of that athleticism early on, trying to get things going with his arm and trying to let the receivers come free. And I think that's great. But I think that this is kind of one of those, they talk about winning time here in Washington a lot. I think this is a 60 minutes of winning time. And Jayden is going to come into this game understanding that, look, if you got to put the cape on from the first quarter throughout, go ahead, put that cape on and carry that team. I think that, you love to get Brian Robinson Jr. rolling if you could, but if Jayden's got to carry the game on his arm and on his legs, he's the team's leading rusher this year for a reason, so you can certainly do it.
Thanks a lot for joining us again, David. If the Commanders make a run here, we'll have to get you back on. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Appreciate the invite. Thanks, guys.
Season's Readings. Yes, readings from your friends with the East Baton Rouge Parish Library. Ring in the holidays with movies shown from the plaza of the library on Goodwood. Crafts galore. Please come and browse. And what would the holidays be without music? Your East Baton Rouge Parish Library will feature several concerts with unique artists. To get the full calendar of events, go to ebrpl.com. The East Baton Rouge Parish Library.